It was once called a dark continent. It is still emerging from the wounds of colonialism and apartheid. Now the focus is on rebuilding and reclaiming its rightful place on the global stage. Africa is establishing a market of 1.2 billion people with the African Continental Free Trade Area, a proud moment for African leadership.
We are about to witness the realization of one of the flagship projects of Agenda 2063. Throughout this process, we have stood united with 55 sovereign AU member states rallying together despite different levels of economic development and diverse strategic priorities. The commencement of trading under the AfCFTA on the 1st of January 2021 is one of the most significant milestones in the continental integration project.
And women stands to benefit.
The AfCFTA must facilitate greater trade opportunities for women and focus on removing non-tariff barriers to trade. To support this, we must strengthen women's participation in the continental economy by ensuring there is greater public procurement that is earmarked for women-owned businesses. We must ensure that there is sufficient support given to women-owned small, medium enterprises and cooperatives in both local and regional economies. Your Excellencies, most importantly, we should consider an AU protocol on women in trade to give effect to our intentions.
But hard work lies ahead.
As much progress as we have made, integrating 55 markets will not be easy. It will be difficult. It will be a daunting task. It will take resolute determination decade after decade. However, to throw our hands in the air and say the task is too difficult is not an option.
He emphasized the need of dismantling colonial effects.
Africa continues to be trapped in a colonial economic model. This requires that we aggressively implement the AfCFTA as one of the tools for effecting a fundamental structural transformation of Africa's economy and placing Africa on a path of long-term industrial development. Your Excellencies, now is the time. Now is the time to take action to dismantle this colonial economic model by accelerating our industrial development objectives.
On Sunday, the heads of state and government will meet to discuss the issue of security on the continent. Sophie Mokoena, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Well, you saw there Wamkele Mene, who is the head of the Secretariat. For more on this story, we're joined by, on the line by foreign editor, Sophie Mokoena. Very good morning to you, Sophie. Thank you so much for making the time.
Good morning, Des.
Let's recap on what happened yesterday.
Well, of course, as you saw in that clip, the leaders have adopted a legal framework that will ensure the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement starting from the 1st of January this year. And as the President has pointed out on behalf of the continental body, being the chair of the continental body AU, this is a historic moment in a sense that now you have a population of 1.2 billion on the continent being a one market, and this will lead to a situation where the investment, the investors, and also in terms of goods and services, people will look to Africa to do trade because now you have a combined huge market. The problem has been that when you look at individual member countries on the continent, they are not such a huge market to be considered by big countries. People always look up to China and the US, and of course Europe, because when you look at those countries, they have flourishing economy and therefore strong markets. But this time around with Africa being under one roof and one market, of course those investors will look up to Africa to do business. And therefore, this will improve economic situation on the continent, particularly at a time where countries are battling to deal with the impact of COVID-19 on the economy. And therefore, it is a good step in the right direction. This is a dream or perhaps a vision that was started by our forebears, the founders of the Organization of African Unity, and of course those who then transformed the Organization of African Unity to today what we call as African Union. And we know that through NEPAD, the intention was always to ensure that Africa is able to trade, its member countries are able to trade among themselves, but also it becomes a force to be reckoned with, particularly on the world stage.
What can we expect today?
Today we know that the leaders will focus on the campaign to silence the guns on the continent. You know that the intention there is to ensure that we don't have these, it might be internal conflicts or perhaps country to country conflict on the continent. When you look at the situation in the Horn of Africa currently in Ethiopia, where you have internal conflict, these are some of the issues that the leaders will be looking at. You also have a situation, meanwhile, many people are saying there's relative peace in the Great Lakes region, but you still have pockets of rebels in that region, and therefore you have to deal with that. You come to south, you know that in Mozambique you have that challenge of security, and therefore the leaders will be looking at how can the continent work together to ensure that finally you don't have these guns on the continent, and you don't have people who are refugees because of the security situation in the respective countries where they come from. But we are told because they couldn't meet that target of silencing the guns completely in 2020, they will again extend the target to 2030. But what they will do this time around is to ensure that every 2 years there's a huge summit to take stock of progress made. And therefore, every 2 years, they'll be able to say, we are left with this area, let's deal with it this way, let's put together our resources and ensure that we deal with that kind of a conflict in a particular area. And I think this is a right decision to ensure that you don't just come up with policies or with campaigns, but you also monitor and evaluate progress so that you are able to make interventions where you see that you were not able perhaps to achieve a particular outcome.
Elections taking place in Ghana, what can we expect from there?
The two front runners there is the current president, Nana Akufo-Addo, but also former President John Dramani Mahama. These are the two front runners, and the Ghanaians will decide who is the right person to lead that country. The issues there is around how to rebuild the economy, issues of education, and issues of health because of the COVID-19. Therefore, it is a very heated contest between Nana Akufo-Addo and John Dramani Mahama. And we know that our former president, Kgalema Motlanthe, is one of the heads of the observer missions there, and he arrived last week in that country to monitor elections there. We will get a sense of who has won elections around Wednesday this week.
Thank you so much. We'll be watching developments as they unfold today. Thank you so much, Sophie.
Thank you.